Hello, somebodies. Welcome to the Nobodies. What are we doing here today?
Today we are going to be interviewing the great Zeke Sky. How are you today, buddy?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us. We are honored.
To those who don't know who he is, we dubbed him Zeke Muscles the first time we listened to him.
Yes. How many hours do you spend in the gym? I just got to get that off my chest.
You know, I don't even go every day anymore. I can't find the time. I think when that video was shot, I was in like some kind of like splurge. But 5 days a week, I think, is good and healthy for you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I try to shoot for 4, but then again, that was starting this week. So,
So we have a lot of questions for you today concerning your music, and I'm sure your fans will want to know. So how many hours a day do you practice for, and how long have you been doing this for?
It really varies with the practice. I'm sure there was a certain period of time where I was practicing like 12 hours a day. At this point, I think I practice about half of that, but it could be more. And I guess I've been playing guitar and musically involved since I've been musically involved since I was 11 or 12.
So when you say that it's gone down a little bit, is there any specific reason for that, or is like the time just don't have it, or is like just focusing less on guitar a little bit?
No, it's one thing is that I focus on other instruments, particularly piano, more these days, although that's kind of what you asked, but I'm always trying to write, and I don't really consider writing practice time. Like when you ask about practice, it's kind of like a question of, am I sitting down with my guitar and like consciously trying to get better and better at guitar, which is kind of like that's just exercise. And I do that. But I'm also consciously trying to produce music and write music and, have demos for the next album. So it varies. How much time do I spend on just music all day? I mean, it's many hours out of the day. It's most of the day.
All right, great. So when you practice, are you listening to other people's music? Are you reading books? How are you practicing?
At this point on guitar, I really just try to work on my own ideas, and I try to consciously write and push myself on stuff that I know that I think is good for writing. On piano, it's like more I'm learning Mozart sonatas, and I'm like consciously pushing myself on stuff that's happened already, just because it's kind of like a second language where you kind of pick up bits and pieces, and you're weaker on it because you started later. When you and I speak, I could use a verb or an adjective, and I'm not going to look at you right after and be like, that was a very good use of my verbs and my adjectives, and my subjunctives. Now, in my second or third language, I may very well do that, and that's kind of the difference.
Well, I had a question about your second or third language. Do you have other languages? Because where does the name Zeke Sky come from?
So Zeke Sky is just a shortening of my last name, and it was actually, I think it was my dad's idea. I can't even completely remember. I think it was, though. But Zeke is my name. It's Ezekiel, and we shortened to Sky, and that's the way it's always been. It was the Zeke Sky Band at one point, and then I just decided that I wanted less text in the title of the band. So from 2017 to 2019, which was like the first shows the band did, it was the Zeke Sky Band, and then it became just Zeke Sky in 2020.
Now, what's the nationality behind Zeke Sky?
You mean like my nationality?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's Polish.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
So you live in Pennsylvania?
I do.
So I have a question about the video we watched the other night. I said Delaware, and I extremely apologize. I meant to say Pennsylvania, but was it in the Delaware Water Gap? Because I've canoed that river so many times.
The Delaware River. And yes, it was filmed right kind of probably 10 miles north of Trenton on that approach. There's this, we actually had more footage of that specific place, but I chose that specific place because you can actually walk far into the water without it getting too current-like. And it's just part of this nice kind of state park kind of place, kind of near. I don't know if you know where it was, near Washington's Crossing, which is where George Washington crossed from New Jersey or from Pennsylvania over to New Jersey in the Revolutionary War, and this very famous crossing where he took, in the middle of winter, he took these small boats and took them across the Delaware River and like free. It's known as this bold moment in the Revolutionary War, and it's right around there.
Well, we've seen those pictures of George Washington standing on the boat. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about?
That's exactly it. And you can see the ice is kind of frozen around him. That's exactly the area that it is.
Wow. So you're a historian, too, not even just a musician.
I like history. I'm definitely a fan of it.
Yeah, you sounded. That's awesome.
So then let me ask, where did the sword come from in Light the Sky?
The sword it's a good question. The idea for Light the Sky was kind of like this, it wasn't as acted out as maybe it could have been, but it was kind of a question of empowerment kind of thing and attaining things that were unobtainable. And I thought a nice execution of that metaphor was having a sword that was out in a river. And I thought that kind of the sword kind of was a metaphor for strength and taking things into your own hands. And I thought the river presented this classical impediment to kind of getting to those things. Most people don't want to trudge all the way out in the middle of a river. And the nasty secret is it's not the most violent river where I walked out. I think a lot of people could probably walk out there. The hard part was getting the sword stuck into the sand beneath the water because it just kept falling over. So
Really?
Getting that shot was really hard.
Yeah. See, we whenever we canoe that river, we go from Bushkill Falls down to the Delaware Water Gap, right where that big mountain is coming on 80, when that big turn. That's a beautiful view right there.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's really nice country.
Yeah, we love it. So we have how many instruments can you actually play? You said guitar, you said piano. Can you play like drums and trumpets, flutes?
I can play a lot of instruments, but the things I'm most comfortable on are like guitar, piano, bass, and I can get through stuff on drums. They're not my primary instrument. I don't dabble with lots of instruments. I've tried to just get really good at the ones that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I played some wind instruments when I was younger, and I'm sure I could get something out of them, but they're not something that I consciously do all the time.
How long ago did you start each instrument?
I think you said 11.
11?
So my parents tell me I had piano when I was very young, super young, but I don't remember anything from that. Literally nothing. I guess I had some trombone and stuff when I was 10 or 11, but I barely remember that too. The only thing I really remember was picking up a guitar right around then. And I didn't play any music. Don't get confused. I wasn't super good when I was 10. I just saw that some kind of revolution was happening and I wanted to be a part of it. So for the first year that I had a guitar, I would just literally hold it and scream at people. I wasn't interested in anything that was vaguely musical. I was just trying to be part of this rebellion.
So this rebellion and this revolution, what were the bands that you were listening to?
So the music that got me on guitar at first was crazy punk rock. It was the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, and I thought that stuff was cool. I don't know how this was the day I picked up guitar was the beginning of YouTube. That dates me a little bit, but that was YouTube had just come around, and there was this video of Johnny Rotten doing "God Saves the Queen."
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on, and my parents came in. They were like, "This is awful. Turn this off." And of course, that made me think, "Oh wow, this is the shit. I gotta really pay attention to this guy now."
Yeah, if it fucks up my parents, I just
I have to do that. And God bless them, they actually got me a guitar a little bit after that. And but for the first year, I was literally just all punk rock. And then there was a band called Coheed and Cambria that came from my hometown in New York, in Nyack. And they had songs that were very melodic and more guitar oriented, and that really, really got me going.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember my first band was Striper, and just because it said "to hell with the devil," my parents were like, "Oh my God, the word hell!" Because the way they say it is "to hell" as the bad word, or to hell down below. They didn't get
Right.
the whatever it was. But yeah,
Right.
parents, it doesn't matter what you listen to. But yeah, going straight to the Sex Pistols, you really knocked your parents in the.
I did.
yeah, that's a little rough.
You guys didn't even want me watching YouTube when I was growing up.
You
so
still can't watch YouTube.
I had nothing to rebel with. So, we heard you got signed recently. Tell us about it.
It actually happened about 6 months ago. There's a guy called Marcus Stager who had one of the biggest labels in the world called Nuclear Blast, signed all kinds of probably some of the top bands in metal at this point, and he founded that label in the 80s. And actually that label started out as just really this humble, from what I understand, just this literal, vinyl order kind of thing in the 80s. And it grew and grew and grew, and some of the biggest metal acts signed to Nuclear Blast and still are signed to Nuclear Blast. And then I guess 2 or 3 years ago, Marcus started another label called Atomic Fire, and we started talking in about February, and I sent him this record called Intergalactic Demon King, and he liked it a lot, and he said, I'll give you a record deal, and we'll put this album out. And I said yes. And so Light the Sky was the third single released from that album. And that album comes out in its entirety on November 11th.
Well, we definitely want to say congratulations. That's a big milestone in your career. Absolutely.
Yeah. We've reacted to tons of Nuclear Blast
stuff. Definitely a very good feeling.
Yeah, we've watched a couple videos off of Nuclear Blast. They are very popular, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Light the Sky's... I didn't realize how new Light the Sky was, actually. That was on me for not checking the date, I guess. But, what was the process behind that song?
The process, the guitar riff had existed for some time before the song came together. The core of that song had existed. And then I started really putting lyrics to that song right around when COVID happened. And it's got all of these battle metaphors in it, which I'm very much about. But that song kind of got written because I was feeling very defiant about some of the things that were going on at the time, which were, if you wind back the clock a little bit to, February or March or even, April and May of 2020, there was a lot of pessimism and nihilism out there about the music industry where people really didn't think things could go on. And a lot of people were throwing in the towel, and lots of people are throwing in the towel now, by the way. It's had a delayed effect, but there are a lot of bands who've just decided that, they can't keep going. And, my reaction was, of course, the total opposite.
You fed off
I just felt very almost invigorated by the challenge of this dystopia that had sort of been unparsimoniously just dropped on the earth. And I was going to write a song about battles and conquests, and that was what I wanted. And while Light the Sky was sort of this metaphor for almost a doomed civilization and sort of a reference to the things that can sort of corrupt a people, it was also sort of my perspective of wanting to go straight out into the fight and make straight for the enemy, and whatever happens, happens kind of thing.
That song is so good. I think I've listened to it probably now 57 times.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm glad you guys like it.
Oh my God, it is so good. It's like you have no idea.
I do remember the first time I sat down and listened to the whole mix of it. And it was the first time where I was like, wow, I've really got something here. And that's a distinctly good feeling.
It is a good feeling because there's a lot of times you write music and you're like, I don't know. Once you have that, I don't know, then it's not good.
Yeah.
But it's like if you got that, this is it. I don't care if it sucks or not to other people. I like it. That's what counts.
Yes, 100%.
You know what I mean? So how long did it take to make the video?
So the video came together in really 2 shooting days. There was one shooting day for the outside shots, and that was actually a little bit of a minefield because we needed the sword, and we kind of trudged around these places around the river, and we needed it to happen right around dark. And we actually ended up getting stuck
Oh,
Me and the filmmaker, a guy called Micah Payne, is just one filmmaker. He's a very talented producer, and we it took us a long time to get the shots we needed. The sword kept crashing down into the water,
Mm-hmm.
and finally we got the shots we needed, and we were very far downstream, and the sun's going down. We ended up having to hack our way with the sword through these bushes to get back up to the path.
thank God you had it.
Mhm.
That happened in the space of an afternoon and an evening, so 6 hours. And then the shots of the band came together, in a standard workday frame of like a 9 to 5 in this kind of like rustic barn that I had chosen that had some like cool medieval goblets on it that I just thought was a nice vibe. All in all, it was 2 days of shooting.
Okay, beautiful.
Little do the people know, Zeke fought a shark off camera.
Yeah. Yeah, he was fighting off the women.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So you want to tell us about all about the new album and the songs on the album?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's interestingly, some of it was pre-released a while ago. So some of the songs had been on a previous release, and the label actually relicensed those songs to come out as part of like a grand effort. There's 11 songs on the album.
Yeah.
So it is a big album. They all came together with the same production, which was through a guy called Kevin Entreassian, who has a studio in New Jersey. He was the guitar player in a band called the Dillinger Escape Plan for some years. And they are very, according to the reviewers who are getting their hands on it now, the songs are very eclectic. There's everything from kind of typical, I don't know, hardcore metal sounds to world music to piano interludes. It's a lot. And I think for some people it will be too much. I think that was the sense of some people were expecting me to write a typical thrash or prog metal album, and it's more in the vein of a rock album with lots of elements around it. That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being issued on vinyl, which that was the first thing that I found out from the label, was that they were going to do a vinyl pressing. And it's on pre-order now, and it should arrive in the States on November 11th. And it will be distributed, from what I understand, in all the major music stores. So you'll be able to buy it at Barnes & Noble. It's the first vinyl I've ever had, and it's remastered for vinyl. So it'll sound, a little different on vinyl than it would from just streaming. The mixes are a little bit, there's a different equalization in them that I think is pleasant. And the songs themselves are, as I said, eclectic. There's a lot of guitar solos. There's a lot of the interchange between the dirty vocals and the clean vocals. And by the way, I did all the vocals on the album. In music videos, we try to portray it as a trade-off, but anytime you hear a vocal on the album, you're hearing me.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
So
were wondering.
I'm glad we fooled you.
Yeah, you definitely did.
Yeah.
At first you didn't, but then we were like, wait a minute, why do we see him singing it? Because it did sound like you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, it's got to be a double track. But then it came, I saw the guy, who was it, the bassist?
Kenny.
Yeah, Kenny was, he showed his face, and I'm like, okay, so it isn't him. So
Yeah, because in a music video, it's a little harder to portray that. It's a little bit better to have an interchange. And live, we'll have to do that because those vocals actually overlap slightly.
They do.
But I would say overall, I'm really happy with the album. It's definitely the best work I've ever done. It's really the first work I've ever done in a way, because before this time, I wasn't really putting out music. My music, like my personal music, only started kind of materializing in the form of videos on the internet in 2017 and 2018. And this is the first true full-length album that I've released.
Congratulations once again.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can you tell us what we expect from you in the future? Are you going to be doing tours, more music, more videos?
Yeah, this is your chance to brag outside of like the album and the vinyl.
So there's nothing to brag about, because really until the albums come out, I will make no decision about that. I know that there's an audience right now, and I know that I have, a pretty large social media following, but my feeling in general is that tours should happen organically, and that they should be about delivering the music and not just showing up to tour because you want to tour and pushing your music to the people who saw just one video. I really think some fandom of the album needs to come first. That being said, I'm very proud of the album and I'm happy about it, but I'm not going to make any plans to do that until I really, really feel like the demand for specifically that performance is there.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of there are a lot of bands that have are less known than I am that are touring and they're doing their thing. I'm not going to just tour to tour. I'm going to tour because I want to tour on the album, and that will be determined after the record comes out.
That's very, very smart.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they try to rush things. I'm one of those guys. I tell Jonathan all the time, "Oh, let's get a video out. Get a video out." He's like, "Dad, let's set it till 9 in the morning when people are watching. I got the whole chart system. I know when people are watching." I'm like, "Go, go, 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 go." I'm bad with that.
We may have different mindsets.
It's a huge deal. So I was more like you for a while. I was way more when I first started doing things. I was like, bam, bam, bam. Let's do serial content. Let's do all of these things. But actually, as you mature as a creator a little bit more,
exactly.
You start noticing that, first of all, you don't want to feel like you're under pressure to put things out. You want to feel like you're under pressure to create.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling like you're under pressure to put things out is actually a really toxic mindset. It was something that I got into a little bit too much because we see all of this serial content, but when you do quality and you're serious about doing quality, it makes sense to do the planning and to be as strategic about it as you can, which is why, when I got signed, this was 8 months ago, and I was thinking, oh, you guys are going to release the record next month, right? They were like, no.
Yeah, this is going to happen for a while.
We've done the work, and we've made sure that we can do this right. And I think the key with that is to understand that you can be prolific without having to just be doing copious output.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about trying to make sure you can do the best thing at all times.
To be fair, though, I do think YouTube specifically as a company enforces getting as much content out as possible. Like, the people who work on quality do get screwed a little bit when, like, their output does lower a little bit, but in every other scenario, quality over quantity.
I don't know, because I thought that way for a long time. I think the big deal on YouTube is watch time. And I think that quality will draw more watch time. And I think that if you consider music for what it is too, and really anything that is supposed to entertain, if YouTube is going about the watch time metric for real, like that's a real thing.
I think so.
It would make sense that actually quality would do better. You say that quantity does better, but I think what you're missing there is that people who do quantity also do quality.
Yeah.
And Napoleon Bonaparte has this line, which is that quantity has a quality all its own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. But it's only because the type of person who would present quantity would also generally present quality.
Yeah. I think the one big thing, though, and that's something I try to keep in mind too, YouTube, the scariest thing about YouTube is literally their kind of rule is after 2 weeks, if you don't upload a video, they kind of give up on you. It's really annoying.
I don't know. Like, I think that's true in the sense, but it depends on what your thing is.
Oh yeah, there's a balance. There's 100% a balance to it. Yeah.
There's a balance. But yeah, in general, I agree. That's what they went for was shorts. But as a musician, this is another important point to make, I think, because I learned this kind of the hard way. In 2018 or 2017, my Facebook started exploding. Like, I was posting a video every single day, and they weren't bad in quality. I wouldn't say they were bad in quality. I would say that the ideas that I had were sort of very serial.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different thing to listen to a whole album. It's a different consumption of product. They're just really, really separate experiences. And, the audience that you accrue, another thing, the audience that you'll accrue through quantity is very different than the audience you'll accrue through quality.
Yeah.
Which is why you see some of these people with these YouTube followings or social media followings who can't seemingly convert it into a serious audience. I think it's both things there.
Like you said, it's a balance.
With the quantity,
It
you
is.
have so many different people who come in, but like quality, those people stay. That's the
Yes.
big thing.
100%. And there's very few people in the music world. I would say almost no one. Really no one who can really write a song every single day and release a song every single day. Now you might, one of the things that I do think happens is I do think some people will take 4 years. And in those 4 years or something, there will be 100 songs done. And they will be released serially over the next year. And you have 3 months basically there where you can release a song or a great piece of content every single day. And in the 4 years previous, you know, really, if you do the math there, it's really you did something in 12 days. So I think that goes on for sure. But yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah.
What it comes down to.
That's the final, like, kind of very simplified version of it. It's hard work.
So speaking of hard work, what would you tell anyone trying to get into the business or into music?
What would I tell someone trying to get into music? I think the best advice I could give to anyone, I think this is the best thing I've ever heard, is if you want to be a musician, do not be a musician. If you must be a musician, then you should be a musician. And what I mean by that is, you know, there are some people who they need to do the thing that's purposeful in life. They can't do the thing that is just, you know, filing through paperwork. They can't be happy that way. I would say actually most people can't be happy that way. There's an old, I think it's a Walt Whitman quote that was kind of stolen by Roger Waters, but he says the mass of men live quiet lives of desperation. And I think what he's talking about there is the fact that we kind of we cookie cutter people into jobs, and we form them into these nice pieces of Play-Doh, and they go off and do the thing that they're mass educated to do. And we have disdain almost for people who want to learn for learning's sake or want to create for creation's sake. And I think the most powerful motivation you can have in something like music is to like really want to do it for your own interior reasons. And I think if you look at the bad incentives in music, that becomes obvious. Like, you know, if someone wanted to learn an instrument before they were at puberty, for example, before they were able to maybe attract some attention from people they wanted to attract attention from, you find this very pure reason for creating music. And that's the thing that's going to stick. It's going to be that organic, I love this thing, I have to do it to the best of my ability. And I think that's why you see that so many amazing composers and musicians, they go unappreciated in their lifetimes. I mean, even some of the really, really, I mean, even the Mozarts of the world, Mozart in his time, there was a moment where he was quite appreciated, but there was a very, very long time where he was not doing so well, and people did not care for Mozart. And Mozart continued to do quality music even during that time. And I think Mozart and many other artists, I shouldn't single him out, but they had their own deep interior reasons. And sometimes when you investigate that more, it turns out that they started playing music way before anything like money or sex or power, and before they were aware of anything like that. And if you have genuinely that motive to do it, it's the only thing you can do.
Pure. It's like you said, it's 100% pure. You're not. There's no devil. There's no demons. It's like you wrote this. Like, oh my God, this C chord is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, you only got the one thing on your shoulder, you know.
and that's
right.
You know, you're not thinking, oh, I have to play the E chord because she'll like it. No, I like the C chord. You're not thinking of anything else. You know what I mean? You're right. 100%. Wow. You're a very, very smart.
I learned some shit today, dude.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of insight today. This was fantastic. So let's have some fun questions here. What's your favorite food?
Oh, favorite food. Man. Space food.
Get the hell out of here.
Are you talking about like
ice cream? Have you guys had that stuff?
Yeah.
Like the powdery ice cream bars?
Yeah, I love that stuff.
So you like the dips.
That's awesome.
I do. I like that. I like the dips. I tend to like simple foods besides that, though. just like chicken. I like pasta too.
That's funny.
What else? Yeah, I think space food is my favorite.
Okay. So what about your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I guess it would be either Troy,
No.
300,
Oh, you're into that
Or-
gladiator stuff, yeah.
Inglorious Bastards. Those are my 3 favorite.
Okay.
One of those things is not like the other.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Yeah, I like Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
The show?
The new series, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that.
It's so good.
Hey,
Have you
please.
seen season 5 yet?
I haven't seen season 5.
I'm upset with
So
you.
that came on. I don't know, in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And I'd seen the Karate Kid when I was little, and I loved it. I was like watching an episode or 2 of that, and it screwed me up.
You
Like,
you
I
would not
started,
be the first person to curse on this channel.
Like I just started kicking stuff off my desk. Like I was inviting like my girl over, and I was just like kicking shit, and like I was out of control.
Yeah, no, that's to me. I binge watched Cobra Kai a lot. Every season, it's like, did you finish it? Yep, in an hour.
Yeah.
It is great. It is great.
So let's. You're a historian, so you got something?
Oh man, I got nothing. The pandemic screwed me over. I used to love history, but then it just all went downhill after online happened.
Favorite book?
Yeah.
Favorite book. There's a lot. The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant is a really excellent book. It's this historian. He called Will Durant. He and his wife wrote this kind of like epic series of biographies of famous European philosophers. And it's just steeped in like historical and philosophical stuff that I really, really liked. The bit about Friedrich Nietzsche is my favorite. I have a lot of favorite books though.
Okay, good. And I got one last question, Jonathan.
I got one last question.
Okay, go
After
ahead.
yours?
All right.
No, after yours. After yours.
All right. Do you game? And if you do, what's your favorite game?
I don't play video games.
Okay,
ever.
damn.
Either
shame.
do I. I'm not a gamer.
Hey,
I hate
listen. If you ever decide to get into video games, I can recommend the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Genuinely, some of the best storytelling in video games I've ever heard.
Okay, cool.
And fighting. A lot of fighting.
Lots of fighting, yes. All right, last question. Are you sure you can't save some women for the rest of us?
Yes.
The
Please.
funny thing is that they saved me.
That's amazing. Damn, that's philosophical.
But no, I can't.
Philosophical.
I really can't. Sorry.
That's great. This has been fantastic, Zeke. Thank you for joining us today, man. This has been
Not a problem.
so much fun.
This was very fun, man. Thank you for the interview.
All right, you're going to be part of our outro, okay?
Yeah, we need you for this last part.
Okay.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe button and tell us down in the comment section below what Zeke's Guy songs we should listen to, because the band's very good. Light the Sky was phenomenal. And press the bell next subscribe button to get notified every time we upload a video. Zeke, thank you for joining us here today. Seriously, this was very fun. I'm Son.
And I'm Father. And you are?
Zeke Sky.
Rock on!